Marie, the host of Vinyl City Broadcasting, your transit express to rock and roll trivia. I'm sitting in the green room at Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts in Cerritos, California. I'm not dressed in my usual outfit, spaghetti strap black top, wearing my 45 adapter earrings and necklace. I'm dressed more formal today. How do I look? Today, our first interview is Chris Montez. Chris was born in Los Angeles, California, and grew up in Hawthorne. He was influenced by his Hispanic culture and the rock and roll success of Ritchie Valens, who made the biggest impact in his career, the king of rock and roll in Chris's town. In the beginning, Chris emulated the lowrider Latino image, but eventually knew he had to set different goals for himself. In 1962, Chris's single, Let's Dance, hit the top 10, and he was on his way. Many other hits followed, like The More I See You, There Will Never Be Another You, Call Me, and Time After Time. Chris soon became an international recording star and recorded songs in both English and Spanish. The success of the film La Bamba identified his roots and legacy. Born into a bicultural city with a rich heritage, he emerges trim and fit, an energetic performer with a history and cultural relevance that is unique. We're now going to turn this over to Dan Pequeno, our VCB interviewer and contributor. Run the interview, Rico.
Hello to all of you there, Vinyl City Broadcasting. I'm Dan. On my left, who is this guy? This is Chris Montez.
Yeah, I think that's what
I knew your name. I knew your name. I knew your name.
I know.
Chris Montez. We had a couple of hit songs in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Let's Dance.
Call me the more I see you, time after time. Yeah. That's it.
Tell us something about you.
Well, I grew up in a kind of a less than modest home. You know, it was real poor, and slept on the floor a lot of part of my life. And my mother had 18 children.
Okay.
And 9 of us survived. So I grew up with 4 brothers and 4 sisters.
Okay.
And other than that, you know, going to school and trying to get my diploma and all that.
Okay.
Because none of my brothers and sisters, they never went to school really. They got married young, and so I decided to change my life a little.
So you're trying to set the example for the family?
No. I mean, I would love to set a good example, especially for the young generation, young rockers, young artists. It's a rough road, but it's a good road. And if you keep yourself straight, yeah, you can accomplish. You know,
Okay.
You won't fall off the tracks.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in music? How did that come together for you?
Okay, I learned to play guitar playing with my brothers and sisters.
Okay.
I mean, my brothers, really. They used to sing these Mexican songs, you know.
Okay.
I know that you guys have that kind of style, you know. Mexican polkas. And then I decided to make a demo. And I came home one day. I was proud that I made a demo, but I wasn't thinking about being a recording artist. Not at all. And one day I came home and I used to come and watch the Dick Clark show from high school when I was a sophomore. And my mother tells me in Spanish, because she never spoke English, she's saying, you know, there's somebody calling you and they want to talk to you about recording. I thought she had it wrong, you know. So she got the number right, and it happened to these producers. And one was Billy Sherman, and he produced a lot of stuff, you know. Barry DeVorzon, he produced Dreamin', I'm Only Dreamin', Johnny Burnett.
Dorsey Burnett?
Yeah, Dorsey Burnett, and Johnny
Burnett?
Johnny Burnett, when he had you walk like a dream,
Yeah.
peaches and cream.
You're 16.
You're 16.
Beautiful
And
moment.
it was amazing because I was at his house and he's helping me finish the song. and Johnny Burnett comes in. He said, "Come on in," and he comes in and he said, "Oh, by the way, this is Johnny Burnett." I said, "You're Johnny Burnett?" He said,
Chris, this is cool history, man.
It was great because here I'm a kid and he's, you know, and he has #1 hit in the country, and I'm saying, wow, you know, and I was really thrilled. He was real kind, a real country gentleman, you know.
Humble and kind.
Humble, yeah. And that was one of my first meetings. And then after we got the record going, we tried with one record which called All You Had to Do Was Tell Me, and it was regional hit. And then we recorded Let's Dance, which I didn't want to record because, you know, I thought, well, it's not my style. I'm more of the ballad, Richie Valens kind of style, you know. That's where I was, singing to the girls. By the way,
you sly dog, you.
I'm a sly dog. I remember one time I was singing at this hall. This is before I got recording, and I thought I was real cool. And I had my amplifier, and I'm singing these ballads on something like a mic like this. And I got close, and I was just in the mood of singing my heart out. And I was singing my heart, and I was really going to get to this phrase. And I put my lips to the microphone, and I got electrocuted. Like, you know, I went. I was so embarrassed. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I didn't know what to do. I was really embarrassed, but I continued. I learned, you know.
Well, we all learn as we get older, Chris.
Yeah.
We're still learning.
Yeah, and then from there, when Let's Dance started becoming a hit, I went to, and they told me you want to go, they want you to do the Dick Clark, and I thought it was a joke. Dick Clark, you're kidding. I used to watch him every day, you know, come home, watch the dancers. So the next thing I meet Dick Clark and do Let's Dance, and then he said, after here you got to go do the Apollo, the Howard Theater. That was my first tour, you know. So I hung out with that. I got trained by working with Smokey Robinson, Jerry Butler, and all these people, you know. And that was my first experience. And then they said, after I did doing tours around the country, they want you to do
some tour?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the. Oh God, he's a great famous singer. You know, black artist.
Well, that could be anybody.
Yeah.
James Brown.
No. He had.
I was close.
If you ever change
your mind. That's Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke tour. Sorry, Sam. So I did all his tours on those bus rides, you know, on a hard chair. They were hard chairs on those buses. And I remember getting off the first time I see black and white only, and I said, what does that mean? You know, black and white only. And I never saw that because I grew up from LA, and I'm saying, I finally had to convince myself. I go into the white area and they look at me, and I go to the black and they look at me. I didn't have an in-between situation there, so, but I got along, you know.
It was a negative time period.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience, you know, and then I used to get out and get food for when we go at night, you know, to the restaurants because they had to go in the back. And I'd go in the front and order some stuff. And I remember I was ordering for the Drifters some hamburgers for one of the guys. And they came in and he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I like 8 hamburgers and so on. And then they came in, he said, stand behind the you know, table there, you know. It was funny for me, and I said, it felt strange. He said, are you with him? He said, yeah. I said, yeah. He says, well, instead of being real nice with the hamburgers, he just threw them together and said, here, get out of here. So, you know, that was my first experience of getting thrown out of a fancy hamburger place. And then one day, after doing that tour, somebody said they want you to go to England. And I said, wow, I was elated. And then when I get there, and there's this rock and roll group, I don't know whatever became of them, but they were my opening act. They were called the Beatles, I think that's what they were.
Never heard of them. What do you know about them?
I spent 4 weeks with them. We partied constantly, and it was a wonderful experience, and I learned a lot by watching them, and it was a great thing, you know.
Wow, this is so cool, Chris. I mean, you really got to interact with these people whose music I listen to.
Yeah,
you got to live with them and hang out with them?
Yeah, live with them. And I remember one time they took off for a couple of days because we were always together every day, and I said, where were you guys? He says, we're finishing our album. He said, Paul says, you want to come and listen to it? Give him and Charlie, because that's who I hung out with mostly. And he puts a 78, you know, in the big. Well, she was just 17. I said, wow, that's great, Paul. And he played it. I had Paul play that song about 6 times, you know. That was it.
Cool.
Yeah, that was it. So that was my story, and then after that, I ran across a producer who said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to school." And he said, "I'd like to record you." I said, "No, I'm not interested," but I didn't realize that was Herb Alpert. And so that's how Call Me, The More I See You, and all those things came about. You know.
Chris, this is really nice behind-the-scenes history you're sharing with us. Very, very. So, I was going to ask you for a funny story. So, anything besides kissing the microphone and getting electrocuted? Any other funny stories you've got?
Yeah.
Because kissing the microphone, that was.
Oh, that was electric.
That was.
Yeah, one time this guy says, "Hey," when I was English, "be careful because when the girls, they'll usually mob the stage." And he says, "I got advice for you. If they mob the stage, grab the first girl and wrap your hands around her." So sure it happened. And Chris, you know, because it was chaotic all the time, couldn't go nowhere. And I grabbed the first girl, and the next thing, we're on the floor and everybody's beating her up. And so I got away with it. What can I tell you?
All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is the history that we're looking for, behind-the-scenes history, preserving your history.
Thank
know what
you.
I mean?
Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. Appreciate hearing your music. Appreciate you sitting down with us, and we'll turn it over to Marie at Vital City Broadcasting to conclude this little episode we have here.
Growing up in a household with 12 brothers and sisters must have been a challenge. But look how he turned out. Great personality. Down to earth. Someone you could sit down with and let you tell him rock and roll stories all day. And his story about putting his lips to the microphone when he was singing and almost getting electrocuted. Electrifying, you might say. We didn't know this at the time, but Chris was scheduled to perform in Clear Lake, Iowa at the Surf Ballroom, the home of the Winter Dance Party, on February 3rd of this year. Rico spoke to him after he got back from Clear Lake, and Chris said he sang La Bamba and Donna, a tribute to Richie Valens. He said it was emotional, yet satisfying. From American Bandstand to the Apollo Theater, to working with Smokey Robinson and touring with the Sam Cooke Caravan. The Beatles being your opening act, turning down Herb Alpert. Of course, you didn't know who he was. Your bio reads like a who's who of rock and roll. And we're glad you recorded Let's Dance. Even though you were a ballad sort of guy, it's one of our favorites. Of course, touring in the South back in the day had its challenges, and I'm sure some laughs at the same time. You had restaurants for African Americans, restaurants for whites, but you didn't know where you fit in being Mexican. I didn't know they had fancy burger places back then. It was really a pleasure interviewing and talking to Chris. Just a wealth of rock and roll knowledge and funny stories. Rico says, don't get too close to the microphone, Chris, the next time you perform, even though you're very electrifying. We hope all of our subscribers and friends out there in VCB land enjoyed the interview. So why don't we all get up and dance?